Hi, I'm Sam Faddis. I'm the president of UnitePA and also of the Pennsylvania Patriots Coalition. I welcome you all to the presentation tonight, which is a workshop, the first of a continuing series of workshops on running a campaign. I'm going to introduce the presenter here in a moment, but just up front to kind of frame this for all of you. The focus of the coalition and the groups that make up the coalition at this point is really on transforming the Republican Party in the state of Pennsylvania, which means encouraging people to get involved in the process, run for office, not just be bystanders, not just protest or show up or complain, but get involved in the system, which is obviously the way it was intended to be, right? You're not supposed to just complain or express your grievances. You're supposed to actually be part of the process, and that's what this is all about. This is going to be starting off at the basic level in terms of building a campaign. And the central thesis, if you will, here is this. A lot of folks get involved in running. They make this decision, they're going to run for office, they're going to jump into the fray. And they fundamentally don't understand what they're doing. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way, because we want to encourage people to be involved. But it's like anything else you do, you actually have to learn the mechanics and often learn the hard way how to do this, how to carry it out mechanically, how to make a difference. If you're going to take on an incumbent at any level, you're not just simply going to be gifted the office in most cases. You're going to have to figure out, what are you doing? Where's the money coming from? What's your message? Who are you talking to? The real nuts and bolts of how this works. And that ultimately is really what makes the difference between whether you're a candidate or whether you're a successful candidate and you actually win the election. Okay? So with that, by the way of a very brief introduction, introduce David Cohen, who's going to present. And she's going to start off, as you're going to see, right at bedrock. And her focus is, since we're sitting in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, using Susquehanna County, if you will, as the template, as the example. Okay, how would we do this? How should we do this right here in Susquehanna County? Dave, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for coming. We're here to talk about how to run a successful campaign. My goals for you is when you leave here that you'll be able to write campaign goals. You'll be able to target an audience. You'll be able to develop a strong campaign message. You'll be able to list the activities that you need to accomplish, and you'll be able to measure your success. What do you need to know? You need to know your voter. So you need to know your demographics for your area. You need to know Susquehanna County has, what's our population? It's 38,892. We're 93% white, 2.5% Latino, 3.8% other, 1% Black, Native American, or Asian. What are the households? How many do we have? In the county, we have 16,529 households. 32% have children under the age of 18. 58% are married, living together. 9% are women living alone. 28% are non-families. 12% are over 65 living alone. And 9.8% are veterans. And most of those veterans are from the Vietnam War. How much money do they make? What is the income level? The mean household income is $59,391. There's 41% make under $50,000 in income. 33% make between $50,000 and $100,000. 20% make $100,000 to $200,000 of income. 5% make over $200,000. 11.6% are below poverty line. Children living in poverty is 17%, and 9% of our elderly are living in poverty. Where do these people work? The statistics from 2018 said the #1 employer in Susquehanna County was Montrose Area School District. Then you have hospitals, Barnes, Penn State Government, Endless Mountains Healthcare System, Susquehanna County Government, Mountain View School District, Elk Lake, Gas Search Drilling, Blue Ridge School District, and Cabot Oil and Gas. So you have 4 schools, 2 governments, 2 hospitals, and 2 gas companies that make up the bulk of our employers. What are the age groups and the educations that people fall in? The mean age is 48. 21% are 0 to 20. 20% are between 20 and 39. 27% are between 40 and 59. 32% are between 60 and 80. What's our education level? 90% have a high school education. 25% have some college. 19% have a bachelor's degree or higher. In Susquehanna County, you can now collect data. You're running for a position to be a candidate. You can break it down to your township or your borough, and that's where you really need to go unless you're running for a county position. I'm going to give you an example of Brooklyn Township, the demographics. The total population is 793. There's 383 households. 28% have children. 56% are married couples. 31% are non-families. 26% of the individuals homes. 18% are over 65. 13% have an income of over $200,000 a year, and 16.8% income of less than $24,999 a year. The mean age in Brooklyn is 59, and that was taken from the uspopulation.org. What does Susquehanna County's voting districts look like? You have 41 precincts or voting areas. The 10 largest are Bridgewater, Clifford, New Milford, Great Bend, Auburn, Lenox, Forest City, Silver Lake, Susquehanna Depot, and Springville. What does the voter registration look like? We have 26,963 registered voters in the county. 58% are Republican, which is 16,486. 26.9% are Democrats, and 14.1% are a third party. And they're taken from statistics from 2022. What did the past election look like? Well, in the primary, 40% turnout casted their votes. There was 9,349. That was 6,864 Republicans voted, 2,485 Democrats voted. In the general election, 64% turned out. Total votes in person were 14,316. Total mail-in ballots for Susquehanna County were 2,947. The average Republican votes were 12,000 and the Democrats were 5,200. And why I say average is on a ballot, you know there's multiple people. You will have some people vote for one and not another. So that's why it's very difficult. I can get a total number, but you have to look at an average. I can also break this down into townships. Brooklyn Township, total votes were 320 in person. There were 75 mail-in ballots in Brooklyn. And what was very interesting for me is it's a 50-50 split. So 50% of those mail-in ballots were Democrat and 50% were Republican. On average, there was 254 Republican votes cast and 141 Democrat votes cast. And where would you find this information if you're looking to look at your voter registration information. You would go to the Susquehanna County webpage, you would click on the county offices, you would then go to voter registration. When that pops up on your left-hand side, there'll be a list of things. One will state election results. Click on that, and that will bring you to a page that has all of the prior elections. So you can look at 5 years of data, you can look at a primary, you can look at a general. If you want actual voter registration lists, you would get them from Susquehanna County at voter registration, but you do need to fill out forms and bring your driver's license, because you can get a voter list of active voters, you can get a street list, you can get a Democrat and Republican list, you can get, I believe they have a list that tells you every registered voter, and then it says whether they voted in what elections, like the last 2 elections, it'll let you know that, if it's a yes or no. And that's important information because you want to be able to target your voters that show up at the polls. You can talk to anybody you want to, but if that person doesn't go and vote, it's really not going to make any difference to your campaign. So what does our data say? Our data says that we have 11,239 households that do not have children. We have 5,289 households that have children. We have 1,983 households that have seniors. We have 59% that make over $50,000 a year. We have 90% that have a high school education. Our largest employers have union affiliations. We have more registered Republicans than Democrats. Our general election has between a 65 and 70% turnout. Your voter list will tell you who's an active voter and who shows up. And I want to comment in regards to your union affiliations because those employees might have a mindset already made up because of that. Let's look at the percent of voters you need to win. When you're looking at your campaign, you need to know how many registered voters live in the area that I am soliciting a vote. You need to know how many Republicans and Democrats. Know how many candidates are running for the same position. How many ways are my vote is that bulk number going to get split up? Are you cross-filed? And what is the exact number you need to win? What are the main factors affecting this election? As a candidate, you need to think about primary issues that prevail and how the current leadership is responding to them, and contrast what your opponent has done in the past. How will you find out this information? You need to attend meetings and hear what others are saying. You need to ask others their viewpoints on topics. Share your concerns. See how they respond. Ask questions. Talk to people. Be visible. Hear what people are saying. Listen carefully and take notes. If you're running for school board, some factors may be school education and school scores. Are they good? Are they bad? What is the curriculum? What are they teaching? What is the cost? Tax dollars. Do we have a high cost and a low outcome? All information can be compared to state averages or other schools in the county. You want to know what grants are they accepting and what is the impact they have on the students and the parents. And thank you, Cheryl, gave me this site. It's publicschoolreview.com. Has all of this information. If you're running for township supervisor, what are your current issues or projects that are going on? How is money spent? Are bids received? Are quotes gathered? Are you getting your money's worth? Do you have a rainy day fund? Are you fiscally responsible? Do you have transparency? Do they consider data when they're making decisions? Why are they making the decisions? Are they sharing that information with you? Is one group getting special treatment over another? Are they voting for friends or relatives? When appropriating funds, Do supervisors abstain from votes when there is a conflict of interest? We're looking at your ethics. Your campaign is a strategic plan. It's not something that you wing. You have to have it well planned out. You have to have campaign goals. You want to have a target audience. You want a strong key message. You need to list activities, and you have to have a way to monitor to measure your success. So how do we do that? We analyze our own strengths and weaknesses as a candidate. You need to look at yourself. Look at available resources. Look at skills, experience. What are your weaknesses? What do you lack? And what relationships do you need to build? What information do you need? What opportunities will influence the campaign? Key events aligned with the issues. What are your threats? What can hinder your campaign? What is your opposition? What is your opposition saying? And who are they saying it to? What groups? This will help you with your goal writing and your activities, doing a SWOT analysis. Your campaign goals. Your goals have to be aligned with your campaign purpose. Goals have an expected outcome. They have objectives, defined, measurable actions. They're SMART. They're specific. They're measurable. They're achievable. They're realistic. And they have a time frame. What data do you need to write goals? You need to know the total number of voters in your district, the expected number of voters to vote in an election. If you want a guaranteed victory, you need to know how many you need to receive. You need to communicate your message to how many households or people in order to achieve that. How many candidates are running for office? If the election was today, how many votes would you say you would receive? Your target audience. There are 3 types of voters. You have supporters, opponents, those whose minds have not been made up yet. Those are the ones that you want to target. You want to target your voters who you know they show up every election, no matter what. You need to persuade them to vote for you and not someone else. Voters who have a vested interest. How do issues impact them? Look at your age groups. What's important to a 25-year-old with no kids versus a 35-year-old mom with kids? Issues impact differently. Your goal is to persuade voters with your campaign message. Who are your target audience? Parents, taxpayers, community leaders, seniors, church groups, veterans, community organizations, patriot groups. Your message. Your key message. Short message, less than a minute. People don't have time to listen to something long. Has to be truthful, credible, comes from values, practices, and it has to be believable. It has to be persuasive and important to the voter. The issues that impact them must show contrast. How do you differ from your opponent? Factual. It's a clear message. Must be in a language that voters understand. Your core message will never change. Your message is not your to-do list. It's based on your values and experiences. Why are you running for office? And you'll know some of these key messages that were talked about all the time and related to many issues. Make America great again. Change or more of the same. Do you know what president said that one? Huh? Nope, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton during his time was that, yes, Bill Clinton. Oh, you're basically, let's take a minute, thank you.
We closed it.
Oh. Let me just pull this down. Maybe Whoop. I just pulled it out.
Oh, no.
No, well, it's, I don't know if I can reach, I can't, I'm not tall enough. You know how the clips are in it? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. See? I know how to wash my windows on the back side. I do that with my windows too. Push the clips in, pull it down, and don't always get them in right. My husband gets a little annoyed, but I do try. Okay, so change or more of the same. That was Bill Clinton. Students, parents first, not unions. No indoctrination, only education. Transparency, ethics, and fiscal responsibility matter. Protect future generations from extreme agendas. Your message is repeated over and over again to persuade your voters. You have a list of activities and ways to promote the message. Can be one-on-one, can be attend events that are happening in the community. You can create flyers, have business cards, hold events, social media, door-to-door interactions. These items become part of your goals. You measure your success. You have lists of your goals. Review your goals weekly. Are you meeting them? Are you not meeting them? You can track your events, track the number of business cards that are placed in other locations or you're giving out. What feedback are you getting or hearing? Do your homework. Know your demographic area. Know your voter districts. Know how many voters you need to win. You need to write and meet your goals. Have a persuasive message. Target your voters. List your activities and measure your success. You all have a packet. You have a campaign worksheet, which is data collection. So we're going to talk about some of these things. Describe the voters in your district. How can somebody describe the voters in your district? Anything.
Just families that want to raise a family.
Families want to raise a family, okay. Describe what happened in your past election. Do you think in your area that you had a lot of people turn out, not too many people turn out? People were. You think they turned out? You had a pretty high. Well, I mean, overall, Susquehanna County had a 64%, so yeah, it was pretty good. You think your area was one of those? Describe factors to influence an election. Think about some factors.
Weather.
Yeah, weather can. You know, time constraints. If you're a candidate, that is something you need to think about. You need to put the time into it. If you don't put the time into it, you're not going to have the outcome that occurs. You know, you have to do that. You have to put some, you know, time in that. You know, another influencing factor is how many candidates are running or bidding for the same position. You're splitting a vote. You know, you're only going to have, you know, if you're both bidding for 300 votes, you know, plus you have somebody else on a Democrat, so you're dividing things up. Who's a candidate here? And take a stab at just describe the candidate. Describe why you're running, what you're running for. Anybody? Describe key issues. Throw some key issues out. Who's running for school board? Throw me some key issues that you know are on the table. Yeah. You know?
CRT.
Yeah. CRT, critical race theory. Sure. Probably.
Fluidity. What's the money being spent for?
Mhm.
What are the grants? Where do they get the money? What are they doing with it? What are the requirements?
Right, of what they're doing with different dollars,
Right.
sure. And two, looking at the scores, looking at your student-teacher ratios, looking at the cost associated with that. And with your school districts, you can, you have many target audiences. You have your parents who are concerned about their children. You have your taxpayers who are concerned about their taxes. You have, your elderly are concerned about
Even
your taxes.
grandparents.
The grandparents are concerned about, right.
Concerned about their grandkids.
Sure they are. It's the same. So you want to think about the key issues, describe your responses to the issues, and describe how your opponent may respond to the key issues. And these are handouts that you're taking with you. You can go home, do the backup demographics, know this, but I just kind of want to walk through the handouts with you. The next handout that you have is a campaign worksheet, a SWOT analysis. List out your strengths. What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? Campaign worksheet for goal writing, the information that you need. You need to know the voters in your district. You need to know what are the expected number of voters to vote in the election. You need to know the number to guarantee you a win and a victory. How many candidates are running? You need to communicate your message to how many households. This is how you're going to write your goals. You need to communicate to how many voters. List your target audience. You have a campaign worksheet with SMART goals. Be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-framed. In your last pages, you're going to write your own campaign message, if you don't already have one. It's a 1-minute statement that answers the question, why are you running for office? And the checklist that you need to make sure that that message includes is below. It must be short, it must be truthful and credible, it must be persuasive and important to your voters. Does it show contrast with your opponents? Is it clear, and does it speak to the audience? And does it define key issues? So tell me, who has any questions?
There are a couple times you've had, know how many votes you need to know to win.
Right, and how you will know that is, for instance, you're running in Clifford, right? So how you would know that, you would go to the voter registration at Susquehanna County on the website. Go to Susquehanna County, go to voter registration. Look at past election results, and you will pull up your primary and pull up your general election. And you will look, they'll all be listed out, all of your townships. You will look to see how many votes were in Clifford Township. Also, there is a database I can send you. I have one from in 2022. There is that has a list. It's a list of the total, it's a voter list, but it's categorized per precinct. So they're broken down by precinct. So if you get that, you'll know how many are on there if you go to the courthouse. But I actually have a list of the voters, but it will tell you your total number of votes. So basically, you need to know your Democrats and your Republicans. Those are going to be your two primary ones that you have to know. You need to know what percentage of, in your situation, you can run on both ballots, okay? So, with that, but you're only running on the Republican,
Right.
it'll tell you the number, and you need to know the whole, though, of the whole voting area, and that's why you want to look at the demographics from the prior elections to say, okay, in Clifford Township, 1,700 people voted. And then you'll be able to look and say, okay, 1,700 voted, 700 were Democrat and 1,000 were Republican. So then you'll know you're bidding for that 1,000 vote. Does anybody have any other questions on where to find information? Sure.
Yeah, you mentioned about being able to get the actual list of voters, their actual names, and
Yes.
how frequently they vote.
Yes.
I'm wondering, can anybody get that, or do you have to be a candidate or a member of a
Nope.
political party?
Anybody, you can go get a voter registration list at any courthouse. They do have you sign a document and a disclosure that you're not going to use that information for anything else but for campaigning. You can be part of a campaign. I was part of a campaign. I was not the candidate, and I received a voter list. And there's many different ways that that list can be broken down, actually. And they have street lists, so you can go door to door and knock on doors. There's the whole entire list, which is Democrat, Republicans. You can look, there's ones, it'll tell you how often they vote. You can find this information. You need to get it at your courthouse, and you do need to sign a form, and you will have to give them a copy of your driver's license. Well, copy of your driver's license here. I don't know if anybody else does that, but here they take a copy of your driver's license.
Is that a digital copy then?
You
Or is
can
it
get a
physical?
I have, usually your digital copies are free.
Okay.
Your paper copies, they may charge you, and I think the most our county charges for anything is $20, I think. But a digital, you can get.
So, David, can I
Sure.
ask you just to kind of, you've already touched on this, but just to elaborate on it a little bit. So you're talking about the number of votes you need, to win an election at whatever level we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you've talked about how, in this information, how often these people vote. Again, you touched on this, but if you could just elaborate on it a little bit, because I think this is critical for a lot of people at the primary level and so forth, is to really just think through this. Okay, there's 1,000 Republicans registered, but how many of those Republicans actually ever vote? And then how many of those Republicans actually ever vote in particular in a primary? Because, right, if you're spending all your time attempting to talk to the target, what you think is the target audience en masse, 1,000 people, but what you really should be talking to is 400 people, right? You're spreading your resources too thin, and you're wasting a lot of energy, right?
Exactly. That's why I'm saying you definitely need to focus on the people that show up to vote. And that's your Republicans and that's your independents. You want to focus on them because they're going to be the ones that you'll be able to persuade to vote for you and let them know why you are the best. Why vote for you? Because you are the best, and you need to have that message. You need to target those individuals. As Sam said, we may have 26,000 registered voters, but 17,000 only voted. Okay, so that's almost a 10,000 difference right there. So there's 10,000 people in Susquehanna County who are a registered voter, but don't vote or haven't been to the polls. The other thing too is on election day for your primary, be at your polls. You have to stay 10 feet away from the door, but be there. Hand out your cards. That's your last hurrah to say to people, vote for me and this is why, and I really appreciate your vote. So you need to be there campaigning at the primary. If you get through the primary, now you have a little downtime to really refocus your strategic plan and go towards November. But it gives you a little time. But right now you don't have a lot of time. The primary is in May. You don't have a lot of time. So you need to use your resources wisely. You need to get your voter list, know who are active voters and show up at the polls. They need to be your targets. And your independents, the same.
Independents can't vote in the
Oh, that's right, they can't vote in the primary. But you still want to hit them because you're going to get them for the general, hopefully. Yeah.
throw in another
Sure,
comment?
yeah.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
This is just to pick up on and emphasize some stuff that you said. You know, you make this decision, you're gonna run for office, and all your buddies in the bar have been listening to you pontificate for a really long time, and they've assured you that you're a genius and they all agree with you. Okay, I'm getting a little snarky, but the point is, you've got a certain audience and they told you that you should run for office, and that's cool, and that's what we're all about. If you're gonna win, you're gonna actually have to go convince people that don't already agree with you and don't already think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're gonna have to convince them to vote for you. So when Dave is talking about all this and breaking this down, you really gotta do it this way, because as you said, David, winging it isn't gonna cut it, right? That you know, that's great that the same people who convinced you to run for office are gonna vote for you. But unless you have a really big circle of buddies, that's
Right.
probably not getting you elected. So you're gonna have to convince people that quite likely never met you and maybe don't see eye to eye with you and everything to decide you're the better choice for them. So like everything you're saying goes to that. So if your whole message, every other word is an anti-union attack, and you're talking to Susquehanna County where the workforce is heavily
Yes.
unionized,
It's not gonna work, right?
that is probably not, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that's probably not a smart approach. Now, that doesn't mean you have to talk out of both sides of your mouth or lie, but maybe you gotta break down for them your message in a way that doesn't sound to them like you're basically slapping them in the face when you begin the conversation, right? Again, not talking about dissembling or lying or
Right.
blowing smoke, we're just saying you gotta be smart. And if you're also spending a lot of time talking about a whole bunch of issues that don't matter to retired people who are 65 years old, well, let's put it this way, are not the number one issues on their plate every day, maybe that's not how you ought to be prioritizing your time. If you got 1 minute to get these folks' attention, maybe you ought to be talking about the really important stuff, right? I watched a gubernatorial candidate who shall remain nameless, very good guy, give a presentation to a natural gas industry grouping of executives from all the big gas companies in the state on energy. And for about 40 minutes, he talked about the future of energy, solar, nuclear, geothermal.
Yeah.
So he's a great guy, and he remains a friend. But and he may have been right about the science, but it's like, man, you're talking to the natural gas industry. The Biden administration is at war with them, and they're forcing their layoffs and crushing stock prices, and they want to know how you're going to save the natural gas industry. That's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear about solar in 25 years and all of this stuff. So again, that's not him, not asking him to feel a way he doesn't really feel or make something up. It's just know who the heck you're talking to. I remember a case from Maryland where it became a big issue with pit bulls. And you're thinking in a congressional race, who cares? Why are anybody asking about pit bulls? Well, it turns out that their pit bulls had been involved in a bunch of attacks. So the county, in this particular county, banned the entire breed. Crime was high, and particularly for single moms that are leaving kids home unattended, having a guard dog at the house was about as real as it gets, right? I gotta leave my kids home and go work the night shift in a high crime area, and that dog's the only thing that gives me security. Well, so if that's a critical issue to that mom, then it's gotta be a critical issue to you, right? You can't afford to just say, I don't care, or I'm not in on that.
Right, absolutely. Your key message doesn't change. And one example is President Trump, make America great again. You heard that over and over. It was related to gas and economy. It was related to education. It was related to healthcare. It was related to everything he talked about. And that's the piece to your core message. You're going to relate that core message back in every conversation. However, your conversation's going to be appropriate with the person that you're talking with. As I talked about, the 25-year-old with no kids. If you go up to him and start talking all kinds of school stuff with him, he may like look at you and go, yeah, whatever. He's more worried about his taxes and the money in his pocket and going out with his buddies than he is about school, that, maybe a school's education or his, scores. They're not important to him. He has no kids. The score isn't gonna hit him. If you said to him they're building a new baseball field and he plays baseball or something, or there's something he can use at the school, then that might appeal to him. So it just really depends on what's happening and what the issues are, on how you are going to relate to those people and have those discussions, to find those key issues, and to let them know where you stand on those.
Yeah, and I would say, just to elaborate on that, you gotta be conscious of not just sort of demographically in some antiseptic way, but you gotta actually think about who you're talking to in a much more subtle way than that, right? We were talking before about critical race theory and gender fluidity and that kind of stuff. Well, especially if we're talking about a general election and you're talking to an independent or a soft Democrat and you're trying to get them to vote for you, and you start using those kind of buzzwords, you may pretty much have lost them. It's like, I'm not really listening to you anymore because you're using a bunch of verbiage. It's all trigger, hate that term, but it sort of triggers them. It's like, from this point on, I'm not listening to you. But if you talked to this mom who is a liberal Democrat and actually confronted her with the fact that, no kidding, there are completely pornographic materials, and here's an example in the middle school library, and your 10-year-old can check out this graphic novel with pictures of two teenage boys engaged in sex without your knowledge, and prove to her that that's real, because it is real in the state of Pennsylvania.
Show people these things.
Now, despite the fact that a minute ago she didn't want to hear anything, if she had used certain terminology, she would have turned you off. Now, like, maybe she's listening to you, right? Maybe now she's like, whoa, wait a second, what?
Yeah.
Now I'm actually, right? That's about, okay, again, back to your core messages, man,
Yeah.
what you're building the foundation. Who are you talking to?
Right.
Right?
And
If
what's
it's not just your buddies, who are you talking to? And how am I gonna get them to decide I'm the better candidate?
Yep. What's important to them? And you will find that out by listening, being out in the community, talking with people, throwing ideas out there, hearing what they have to say, asking questions, taking notes. That's how you're going to find out what their key issues are. And
Yeah.
those,
Yeah,
if they
I
align.
love the fact that you put that on the slide, because that's so crucial, right? You gotta listen. Every once in a while you gotta, this is hard for me because I run my mouth all the time, but every once in a while you actually gotta shut up and listen to what people are saying to you, because otherwise you're just yammering on about what you think is important, and you're talking to somebody and, man, they stop listening to you 30 seconds into your speech and you're oblivious. But also you just don't understand the issues. You don't understand what's important to them.
What are they looking at? At this point, I think a lot of people, depending whether you're running for school board or township supervisors, the economy is a big thing. Taxes, because everything is so high right now. I think that is a key issue with a lot of people. But it's relating that back to them on how certain people are voting and how they're spending tax dollars. And your taxes maybe they didn't go up this year, but if they continue on this trend of spending, your taxes are going to go up. There's no way it's sustainable without it. Those are the things, if you stand for low taxes, being fiscally responsible, having a rainy day account. Those types of things will impact just about everybody.
Yeah, the old expression I think in politics is typically what you're talking about is kitchen table issues, right?
Absolutely.
By which you mean like when mom and pa are sitting around the table at the end of the day and they're trying to figure out how the heck are we gonna balance the checkbook this month.
Yeah.
What are they talking about? They're probably not talking about the subtle aspects of Marxist ideology.
No.
And they're probably not talking about how they just read a book on critical race theory. But they're probably talking about the price of gas, and they're talking about the economy. Did they lose their job? They're definitely talking about crime, if that's an issue. That's not an exhaustive list, but like those things are the kind of things. So if you're saying soft on crime equals higher crime rates, and you're putting it in those terms, you are more likely to get mugged on the subway, killed, robbed, whatever. Regardless of your political affiliation, that's
Right.
it's gonna resonate with you, right?
Right, and that's why you have to, you make it personal. It's something, you have to be believable, but you make it connected and it's personal. What your key message is, it's related back to something that somebody can visualize and understand. And as Sam said, it's kind of kitchen table stuff. People are sitting around at their tables, balancing the budget for the month, and their light bill keeps going way, way up. PP&L just had these major issues. Even here, our light bills have gone up. I've seen mine go up tremendously. Those are the types of things. So when you start, that's their concern, is they're sitting around trying to budget these things. The last thing they want is for their township taxes or school taxes to go up. And our school taxes did go up. I didn't actually sit down to figure out exactly how much, but I know they did go up. I didn't want to.
You didn't want to.
I didn't want to. I really didn't. Don't want to know. I don't
Too-
want to.
too
Don't want to do
painful.
that. Really. I don't want to do that. But I do know they went up. So.
Well,
that's
I mean,
it.
let's be blunt, right? Most Americans are not spending all their time on the inside baseball of politics. They probably don't like Republicans or Democrats or anybody
Mhm.
else, right? So
Right.
what they do care about are the things that matter to them and impact them. And that's what you're trying to do, right? Is tell them, this is why your life is gonna be better with me in office
Mhm.
than it is with this other guy that's already
Absolutely.
there running against me. That's what
Absolutely.
it boils down to.
Yep. And you need to contrast that, because if you have an opponent who's been there, you contrast what they have done. You have facts. You have proof. They did this. It's right here in the minutes. They've done that. They voted for this. You can show people that contrast, and that's what's going to make the difference. So,
Yeah, that's another thing that you said early on that I think is just so crucial, because somebody's gonna look at you.
Mhm.
They might articulate it out loud, or they might just be thinking it.
Mhm.
But the bottom line is, what the heck difference is it gonna make to me, man, if you're in office?
mhm, mhm.
Like, I don't like the guy that's in there, but how are you any
How
better?
are you going to change it?
basically?
Right.
Like, how's my life better with you?
Right.
And if you're not prepared to answer that, and not with a long song and
No,
dance,
that's your.
like you said, in about
1
60
minute.
seconds.
1
man.
minute. That's your 1 minute key message.
After that,
That's
the guy's
your
just trying to
message,
get
yeah.
himself out of the
Mhm.
conversation, right?
Yeah,
After
that's
that, it's
it.
just like,
Ready to
tuned
run.
you out.
Mhm.
If I can ask, I'm like ground zero, okay, and I'm listening to everything you say, just doing your homework, how you're gonna make a pitch for you going for an office or
Mhm.
position or whatever it is.
A core
When it
message.
comes down to the actual knocking on the doors,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah. What do you say?
Most-
What do you?
What do you say? Do
You
carry
knock on the door.
a
No,
card
no.
with you?
You know it. It's about you. You're the candidate, so it's about you. You knock on the door. Hi, I'm so and so. I'm running for school board. I'm running for school board because our taxes have gone up for the last so many years, and it's really getting. Yeah, I'm not able to afford it anymore. A lot of people aren't going to be able to afford this. I'd really appreciate your vote. Do you have any questions? And you can say to them, hey, do you have any, questions for me?
Yep.
What can I do for you? Do you have children? Ask them, see what they say. 90% of the people are concerned about their school taxes because they're related back to your property taxes. If you don't pay your property taxes, they can take your houses. This is a big ball that can roll down a hill very quickly, especially people who are in a situation where the economy has plummeted at this point. They still have expenses they have to pay. So I can get away without paying my taxes for 3 years. So last year I put them on hold. Wasn't a good year. Or maybe I did it for 2 years already. Now I'm in my 3rd year and they're high. Now I have to pay off 1 year or I'm in trouble. So these are big balls that can roll down a hill.
I'm gonna throw in this because I'm snarkier than David, because she's a nicer person.
Okay.
If you actually are completely comfortable with going out and knocking on the doors of complete strangers and asking for their vote, I think you have some sort of psychological problem. Okay, let's
I
just
did,
keep going.
I did it all the
let's-
time for a
Okay,
candidate,
so
so I don't know.
let's just
I survived.
let's just kind of just confront that, you know, the elephant in the room, right? It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, people don't like to do it.
Mhm.
Should you do it? 100% you should do it. Is it incredibly effective? Yes.
Mhm.
What would I suggest when you, I mean, in terms of the psychological thing, she's talking the substance. If it was you and you were answering the door and somebody knocked on the door,
I'm running for-
how would you want that person to behave? Don't put on some plastic personality that's artificial. You can't do that anyway. Just be you, but behave in the way you would think you would want somebody to behave that's knocking on your door. If the person's incredibly, you know, they just having a bad day and they slam the door in your face, okay, fine, you move on, whatever. Just kind of put on that thick skin, let it slough off. But just approach it with that kind of courtesy and common decency and humility and humanity. You're just talking to a person, you're saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I think you will find, actually, most people appreciate it.
Most people are fine, and the thing is most people don't want a conversation. You'll have a card or something to give them. It is more so, your first encounter with them is, you knock, hello, I'm running for supervisor, here's my card, I'd appreciate a vote, blah, 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 hand it to them. And if they want to engage, and you can say to them, you know, do you have any questions or concerns for me? They'll say, no, okay, thanks, and be
Yeah,
on your way.
100%. You don't
Other
want-
people will draw you in and will never let you out.
Yeah.
Watch those. So you have, seriously, you do have different types of groups that you knock on a door. Oh, hey, come on in, sit down. Now, you know, you're trying to do something. You have a time frame to get to X amount of houses, but you got to be nice and you have to listen to what they have to say, and you try to keep backing away as quickly as you,
You know,
as easy as you
I
can.
think everybody's had this experience. You go in to vote and you look at a set of names on the ballot, right? Even if you're a person who's conscientious. All the time, you're looking at an office to vote for and trying desperately to remember, do I even know anything about any of these people that are running? That's like a sad commentary. I mean, maybe that's not true of a US Senate race or something, but the further you get down the ballot, you're like, I don't even know which. The fact that they've actually met you and met
Right.
you face to face, and you showed up
That's
and took
enough.
the time
Yes.
to talk to
Mhm.
them,
Yes.
that alone, before we ever got to the issues,
Yes.
I mean, if they hate you because you're a Republican, okay, they hate you because you're a Republican, you're dead in the water. But I mean, if there's any chance they're going to vote for you, and you actually took the time to knock on their door and they saw you, and you were walking around their neighborhood, huge, right? I mean, to begin with, if it happens to you, are you ever forgetting that that person's in the race?
You vote
met
for
him
the
face
person.
to face.
You vote for the person who comes to your door, especially in your local elections, because, like Sam said, they're not big elections, not a lot of publicity about them. But the person that walks and knocks on my door and says, "Hey, I'm voting for this. Will you think about voting for me?" I'm going to remember that person when I go to the polling booth. Whether I had a conversation with them or not, I have their card.
Yes.
And you know what? The other guy didn't give me one.
The other guy didn't give me one.
I wasn't, and how am I going to interpret that? How am I interpreting it? He didn't care about me.
Exactly.
He didn't
right.
come. Why would I give him my
He
vote?
wasn't out there in the rain and the
Right,
cold,
right.
and he wasn't doing that.
He didn't
wasn't
show
walking
up.
the neighborhood.
So, those are the types of things. You know, it's perceptions too. It's how
Door-
that person is perceiving it.
Yeah, door knocking is huge, man.
Mhm.
And
And
like,
just to leave a card.
last election cycle, there were two, both the appropriations chairs in the state house, Stan Saylor and Pat Brown, both got defeated in the primary. These are both guys that have been around for 28 years in the state legislature, right? So the bottom line is, if you're the chairman of the appropriations committee in a state legislature and you've been in office for 28 years,
Yeah, you're gonna.
you're on cruise control, man. You do
Mhm.
not lose an election.
Mhm.
You're the guy who holds the purse strings. You're in with the party leadership. You are untouchable. Both of those guys lost in the primary this last time around. And door knocking, I mean, there were a lot of other elements to the campaign, but door knocking was massive. Like huge numbers of volunteers out going door to door to door. All these people who've never paid attention to the records of these guys all of a sudden understand, hey, these guys are taking all kinds of money, they're cutting special deals for their buddies. Huge.
Door knocking alone, statistically, can raise your votes by 10%. That's a lot in a big election, 10%. You know, to get out there and push pavement. Does anybody?
I had a question from the live stream. They were asking, do you have any advice for those that are running, that are going against a campaign that has more money? Any tips or advice on how to combat that?
You need to definitely use your resources smartly. So this is really, and it depends on what kind of campaign too. Well, it doesn't really depend on the campaign, but is it a large area? Is it a small area? Is it a county campaign? Is it a district or local campaign? They're going to have to know their demographics, to know the target voters to hit, to campaign and persuade, because they don't have the dollars or they'll have time. The best bet for them would be to get volunteers. They need as many volunteers as they can to go door to door and to do the things that don't cost a lot of money, such as flyers don't cost a lot of money. Business cards don't cost a lot of money. Papers can be expensive, newspapers, digital.
Anything
Social,
electronic,
yeah,
right?
electronically is free. Get it out there, get your friends, keep sharing, keep getting the message out. Have your core message.
A lot of
Yeah.
Facebook have, like the community,
Pages.
I don't know what the rules are with that.
Yeah.
Hit that.
Sure you can.
Hit that, right, and hit their county areas. Usually if they're a Democrat or Republican, their county website will put their stuff up on the website if they're a Republican. The Republican women will do the same thing, put it up on their website. So there's those types of things that they can actually do.
Yeah, I would also add to that, going back to your whole thesis, right? The more you're in that mode, the smarter you gotta be, right? So I was asking the question of you earlier about, okay, we're in the primary, there's X number of Republicans, but which one of those Republicans actually ever show up to vote in the primary election? Well, if you're really pinched on resources and trying to target and trying to win that election, and you're not doing that, and you're not targeting just the key people that you need, you're just kind of broad brushing and wasting resources, so much the worse. I mean, right? You don't have those resources to squander. I would also say you're talking about drawing the difference between you and the candidate, right?
Yep.
I mean, you and your opponent.
Find it.
Okay, well, so his strength is he's got all this money and he's been in there forever. Well, make that his friggin' liability, man. He is the problem. He is the system. He is the establishment. He's awash in money. Why don't I have any money? I don't have any money because I'm actually telling you the truth, and they don't want me in office. I mean, embrace it, right? Bring it on. That's your deal. You're fighting the system, which is true. So, I mean, those are the cards you're dealt.
Exactly.
You know, that's it. You turn yourself. I'm the guy who's going to change everything for you, and this big money guy is trying to bury me. That's what this is about, and that's the whole theme of your campaign,
Absolutely.
right?
And two, you have facts. This person has been in office. Go back and see how this person has voted. Find those issues and concerns and how that person voted. That
Well,
is
and the
definitely-
central question you ask anybody when you're running against an incumbent that's been around is, and how do you make your life better?
Yeah.
You've been in office for 28 years, so I guess everything's fixed now, right? Like it's all good.
Yeah.
Because he's had 3 decades to square it away, right? Now, if he has squared it all away in 30 years, you're kind of screwed. But, you know, if you can find somebody that's actually done it right for 30 years, let me know. But I mean, that's the point. Like, okay, that's like the differentiation, and that's taking his strength. That's almost like political jujitsu, right?
I just had a comment. I live in Berks County, so it's a more rural county, but I did want to mention that mailing out a letter with your position and statement, especially for school board, can be really, really effective. For example, in our region, we were able to unseat our president of our school board with a write-in campaign, and my dad and I never got the door knock because we live on a farm. But we got a letter from the 2 candidates because they're running together as a pair. They're saying, here's our positions on this. Like I said, you know, they had kids in the school, they've seen issues with, you know, blah, 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 blah. And we're like, we're voting for these people. We had never had a chance to meet them, so we literally went to the day to vote at the polls and we got to meet them.
Mhm.
But that's a good way to get to people because you're not going to be able to knock on everybody's
Right.
doors.
Mhm.
But if you know like there might be people that definitely vote, you could send letters to those that you can't knock on.
Letters or postcards. Postcards are a little bit cheaper.
Or
but-
even magnets,
Yeah,
like
anything.
ours did magnets,
Yeah.
so it's easy because it was a write-in, they have to
Yeah.
be able to spell the name, but whatever works for you.
Yeah, business cards, hand them out at the polling area, which is a good thing. You saw them at the polling
Yeah.
area, they were there. And that's the thing, if you're a write-in candidate, you would have to write the name exactly, so you would definitely wanna spend $34 for 500 business cards and.
Yeah, and
give
make
them
sure,
the
and make
business
sure
card.
like when you go to the court, that you give them all the spellings of your name, cause like the other guy that ran, like for the write-in, he had to submit 30 different spellings of his name, first and last name combinations that people might
Right.
use,
Mhm.
because otherwise they'll throw the vote out.
Right, if you
So-
don't submit that,
Yeah, so you gotta get creative with your vowels and stuff, he said, so
Mhm.
if you're doing that, make sure you do that.
No.
We got any more questions from anybody?
I just have a suggestion, which
Okay.
I'm thinking I'm gonna put my face on my business card.
Oh, yeah, you can, yeah.
Because a lot of people know my face,
Yes, exactly, but they don't know,
they might not know my name,
they might not know your name, yep.
they've seen me.
Right, mm-hmm,
There, yeah, I think that's a great idea, and there
yeah.
are a variety of reasons why people do that. Sometimes it's done in areas where ethnicity might be a really big deal in the election. That's not me saying that I think it ought to be that way, but the fact is, it's a reality, right? In an area where it's like, okay, I'm gonna make crystal clear I'm one of you in that sense. Again, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll leave up to you. But I don't know, I mean, if you had a name that sort of could be a male or female name and you felt like you were trying to appeal to one, I don't know, to the female vote for some reason, maybe that would also be important to say, hey, you know?
Do I need to color my hair so it's not white? Appeal to the younger
You're
people?
fine.
I actually, I don't know if you know this, but I color it this color every morning. It's just jet black, but I feel like
strip
this,
it down.
I feel like
strip
the
it
white
down.
is more distinguished, so I put it in.
Oh,
Takes
is
a
that
long-
it's all about?
Takes a long time with that little brush
Yeah,
and
that's
tease
Grecian
it in.
formula works backwards.
Yeah.
All right, well, give me some feedback. What do you think? Did I touch topics? Did I not? Did you understand? Good, bad, indifferent?
Good.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's great, and I tell you what, I said this to you, but when you put together the presentation originally, I think there are a lot of people that jump in for all the right reasons running for office, right? I mean, they want to make a difference. Nothing, no pejorative implication. They actually want to get off the couch and get involved. But they have, you've been working a career for 20, 30 years doing something totally different. You've never been involved in politics. That's exactly the kind of people we need involved. There's no magic reason you should know all of this stuff, right? It's like any trade or business or arcane world. And if you don't think about it this way, the next thing you know, you're going to be not getting the results you wanted out of the election and not understanding why. And the reason is you never actually thought it through. You didn't do all the things you've talked about. You never thought, who am I talking to? What do they care about? How am I actually going to get my message to them, right?
Right, and it is.
How are they going to know even that I'm in the race? All of these things.
It's a plan. It's not something that you take lightly. It is a calculated plan. And that's how any campaign runs. That's how the Democrats have gotten where they are. The Democrats literally had a 10-year plan.
Yes.
And they followed the plan. And every year kept gaining. They followed the plan. And it's the same thing with any campaign. It's a plan.
Now, for the people that are brand new to this and get involved in
Mhm.
it, okay, they take the template that, you
Mm-hmm.
showed there. Is there a go-to place within the organization, the umbrella group that you could call up and say, do you think this is a good idea?
Well-
Can you have somebody look at it, maybe they're looking at it through a different prism than you are, or they could offer suggestions?
You mean in regards to writing a plan and a campaign message and that kind of stuff? Sure. I mean, or
Yeah,
even just,
even,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, I think all of us is as patriots, being in an organization, are very open to helping anybody along the way get
Yep.
where they need to be.
We can give you a point of contact.
Yeah, absolutely. You know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and plug you in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for the coalition, which again is kind of the umbrella organization, doesn't really control all these different groups all over the state. It's just sort of coordinates, fosters communication, right? All the local groups remain completely independent, but now we're working together. The focus of the coalition now is sort of like we've gone through the phase of protesting and asking the establishment to do the right thing. And the answer, to sum it up, was basically drop dead. I mean, usually put it in more nice terms, but like they haven't changed. And so the coalition's effort statewide, similar things are going on statewide, and this is the whole focus. Okay, we're done asking you to do the right thing. We're teaching people how to go in and become the folks that are gonna put their hands on the levers and take control of the machine. That's what this is all about. Getting citizens back in control of their own government. So 100%, well, I'll give you a point of contact.
Do you have any suggestions on how to find volunteers if you're new to politics and trying to get into the race?
I would start with your friends, your family, your friends, and then I would start branching out from there to your organizations that you belong to. So I would start family, friends, you know, maybe your church organization, you know people, maybe, you know, if someone is a leader of a Boy Scouts group, talking to those parents or fathers. So I think it would be that way. And
Yeah.
of course, use social media. People will help you. The area that you're in, let them know your stand, why you're running. You know, ask for help. People are there. People want to help. People want to get involved. People don't know how to get involved. So
You're gonna have to ask your circle, what's that expression from Meet the Fockers, or what De Niro uses, the circle of trust?
trust, yeah, the circle
You're
of
gonna
trust.
have to ask your circle of trust to help, you know. You may find that your friends start crossing the street when you go talk. No, I'm kidding, I mean, you got no choice, that you
Yeah.
gotta start with that.
Yeah, your friends, your
And
family.
this is probably something we get into more in later workshops that David's gonna be teaching, but at some point, when you get to bigger campaigns,
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna recognize that you as the candidate not only can't do this alone, but you can't actually organize it. Real, I mean, that's when we get to the point where you're gonna have to have a candidate and then a campaign manager, right? Again, that's jumping ahead, but at some point you get to a level of organization where it's like, all the candidate's gonna do is be talking to people, and somebody else is gonna have to actually be the person pulling all these strings, but that's for a later thing that David will do.
Yeah.
Cause it'll get too big for you.
Oh, definitely will. Not me.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you're a candidate, at some point, basically, when you're a candidate, you don't have a life outside of being a
Yeah.
candidate.
No,
If you're a candidate and you're home sitting around in the middle of campaign season and you got nothing going on, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you ought to be thinking, why? I shouldn't have any extra time. There's always somebody I haven't talked to. Could be somewhere. We got any last questions? David, thank you very much.
Okay. Everybody
Thank you
good?
very, very much
Oh, you're very
for
welcome,
doing
Sam.
this.
It's been fun.
This is incredible, man. Thank you. Thank you, guys.